The stars had watched the Draconari for 10,000 years. They had seen these magnificent creatures rise from simple beasts to rulers of an entire star cluster. The dragons, as other species called them, were the most powerful beings in the known galaxy. Their scales could stop laser fire. Their breath could melt the strongest metal. Their minds could reach across space itself. But tonight, the stars watched something they had never seen before. The dragons were afraid. Deep within the crystal palace on their homeworld, the matriarch Veshra sat upon her throne of black stone. She was ancient even by dragon standards, her scales the color of deep space, her eyes burning like twin suns. Around her stood the council of elders, 12 dragons who had lived for thousands of years. They had conquered empires. They had destroyed entire fleets with their fire. They had never known defeat. Until now. "How many more?" Veshra asked. Her voice was quiet, but it filled the entire chamber. A young dragon stepped forward. His name was Torak, and he was the keeper of the nurseries. His wings trembled as he spoke. 17 more eggs, matriarch. They went dark this morning. The hatchlings inside them are gone." A sound moved through the council. It was not quite a growl, not quite a cry. It was the sound of grief that had no words. The thing that was killing their children had no name at first. The dragons simply called it the darkness, or the hunger, or the nothing. But their scholars eventually found an old word for it in the ancient texts. They called it the hollow. No one knew where the hollow came from. Some said it had always existed, sleeping in the spaces between stars. Others believed it was born from the death of some forgotten god. What they did know was simple and terrible. The hollow fed on psionic energy. It ate thoughts and feelings and dreams. And dragon eggs, dragon hatchlings, were filled with more psionic energy than almost anything else in the universe. To the hollow, the dragon nurseries were a feast. "We have tried everything," said an elder named Krath. His scales were silver with age and his voice was heavy with failure. "We have built shields. We have cast ancient spells. We have stationed our strongest warriors at every entrance. Nothing works. The hollow passes through our defenses like they are not there. It ignores our fire. It ignores our minds. We cannot even touch it." "Then we must find something that can," Veshra said. "There is nothing," another elder replied. "We are the most powerful species in the galaxy. If we cannot stop it, no one can." Veshra turned her burning eyes to the elder. "Is that your pride speaking, or your wisdom?" The elder fell silent. A small dragon near the back of the chamber raised her head. She was young, barely 200 years old, which was almost a child by dragon standards. Her name was Kira, and she worked in the Great Library, studying the records of other species. Most dragons considered this work unimportant. What could lesser beings teach them? "Matriarch," Kira said, her voice shaking slightly, "I may have found something." Every eye turned to her. Kira wanted to shrink back, to disappear, but she forced herself to stand tall. "The hollow feeds on psionic energy," she continued. "It senses it, follows it, consumes it. But I have been reading about a species from a small planet called Earth. They call themselves humans." "Humans," Krath said, speaking the word like it was something unpleasant. "Weak creatures, short lives, no scales, no fire, no wings. What could they possibly offer us?" "They have no psionic signature," Kira said. The chamber went silent. "That is impossible," Torak said. "Every living thing has some psionic presence. Even the smallest insect, even plants, have a tiny spark." "Not humans," Kira replied. "I checked the records 3 times. To psionic senses, humans are completely invisible. They are like holes in the fabric of the universe. They exist, but they give off nothing. The hollow would not be able to sense them at all." Veshra leaned forward on her throne. "You are saying that these humans could walk past the hollow without being noticed?" "I believe so, matriarch. They could enter the nurseries. They could reach the hatchlings. They could do what we cannot." The elders erupted in argument. Some called the idea brilliant. Others called it shameful. How could the mighty Draconari ask for help from such small, fragile creatures? It would be the greatest embarrassment in their history. Other species would laugh at them. Their enemies would see them as weak. Veshra let them argue for a long time. She watched and listened, her ancient mind turning over every word. Finally, she raised one massive claw, and the chamber fell silent once more. "I have ruled our people for 6,000 years," she said. "I have led them through wars and plagues and disasters. I have always put our pride first because our pride is our strength. But our children are dying. Every day more eggs go dark. More hatchlings are taken. If we do nothing, if we let our pride blind us, there will be no Draconari left to be proud." She stood from her throne, and even the oldest elders stepped back. When Veshra spoke again, her voice rang like thunder. "We will ask the humans for help, not because we are weak, but because we are wise enough to know that survival matters more than pride. Kira, you will lead the mission to Earth. Find us a human who can save our children." Kira's heart nearly stopped. "Me, matriarch, but I am just a librarian. I have never even left our homeworld." "You found this solution. You will see it through. Take a ship, take whatever you need, but bring back hope for our people." Kira bowed low, her wings spreading across the floor. "I will not fail you, matriarch." As the council departed, Veshra remained on her throne, staring out at the stars through the crystal walls of her palace. Somewhere out there, on a tiny blue planet, there might be someone who could help them. She only hoped they would find that person in time. In the nurseries below the palace, the hollow continued to feed. It moved through the darkness like smoke, like shadow, like nothing at all. It could feel the psionic energy of the eggs all around it, bright and warm and delicious. It had been hungry for so long, wandering the empty spaces between galaxies, but now it had found paradise. It did not know that something was coming, something it could not sense, something it could not understand. For the first time in its ancient existence, the hollow was about to meet a creature that existed outside its world. A creature made of nothing but flesh and bone and stubborn, impossible will. A human. Kang Tiho woke up at 5 in the morning just like he did every day. He made himself a cup of instant coffee, ate some leftover rice from the night before, and walked to his small animal clinic 3 blocks from his apartment. The streets of Busan were still quiet at this hour. He liked it that way. Tiho was 34 years old. He was not tall. He was not handsome in any special way. He had a round face, tired eyes, and hands that were always slightly rough from work. He had never done anything that would make people remember his name. He was just a veterinarian who loved animals, especially reptiles. His clinic was called Scales and Tails. It was a small place, tucked between a convenience store and a laundromat. Most days, he treated pet lizards, snakes, and turtles. Sometimes a zoo would call him for help with their larger reptiles. He had become known in certain circles as someone who was very patient and very gentle with difficult animals. That morning he had 3 appointments: a bearded dragon with a skin infection, a ball python that was not eating, and a small turtle that had a cracked shell. Normal work, simple problems. He had no idea that his life was about to change forever. The dragon ship arrived at noon. Tiho was in his examination room, carefully cleaning the turtle's shell, when the lights in his clinic suddenly went out. Then came the sound. It was like thunder, but deeper, longer, shaking the walls and floor. The turtle tried to hide in its shell. The snake in its cage pressed itself against the glass. Tiho ran outside. The ship was enormous. It hung in the sky above the city like a second sun, blocking out the light. It was made of something that looked like black crystal, and it hummed with a power that Tiho could feel in his bones. Around him, people were screaming, running, falling to their knees. Car alarms filled the air with noise. But Tiho did not run. He stood in front of his little clinic, looking up at the impossible thing in the sky, and felt something he did not expect. He felt curious. A beam of light came down from the ship. It touched the street in front of him, and then something stepped out of it. Something huge. Kira was trying very hard to look impressive. She had practiced her introduction many times on the journey from her homeworld. She had studied human languages, human customs, human body signals. She knew that humans were easily frightened, and she wanted to make them feel safe. But she had not expected the city to panic. She had not expected the screaming and the chaos. And she had not expected the small human male standing in front of her, looking at her with an expression that was not fear. He was looking at her scales. "Amazing," Tiho said softly in Korean. "Your scales are like nothing I have ever seen. They must be incredibly strong. And your wing structure. It is similar to a pterosaur, but the bone density must be much greater to support your size." Kira blinked. Of all the reactions she had prepared for, this was not one of them. "You are not afraid," she said. Her voice translator turned her words into Korean, deep and rumbling. "I am terrified," Tiho admitted, "but I am also very interested. Are you sick, injured? Most people only come to me when something is wrong." Despite everything, Kira felt herself almost smile. The matriarch had chosen well. "I am Kira of the Draconari," she said formally. "I have come from a world very far away. My people need your help, Kang Tiho." Tiho's eyes went wide. "You know my name. We have studied your planet. We have searched for someone with special qualities, someone who understands creatures like us, someone who has patience and kindness and no fear of scales and teeth. We found you." "Me, I am nobody. I'm just a vet who runs a small clinic." "You once spent 3 days without sleep to save a dying Komodo dragon at the Busan Zoo. You talked to it. You sang to it. The doctors said it would die, but you refused to give up. The animal lived." Tiho remembered that night. It was 2 years ago. The Komodo dragon had eaten something poisonous, and its organs were shutting down one by one. Every other vet said there was no hope, but Tiho had stayed with it, hour after hour, refusing to let go. He had not known anyone was watching. "How do you know about that?" he asked. "Your planet has cameras everywhere. We watched many people before we found you. You are the one we need." Before Tiho could respond, his phone rang. He looked at it. The screen showed his sister's face. "I need to answer this," he said. Kira nodded. She had learned that humans were very attached to their communication devices. "Tiho," his sister Yuna's voice was shaking. "There is a dragon in the sky, a real dragon. I saw it on the news. Are you safe? Where are you?" "I am fine, Yuna. I am actually talking to the dragon right now." There was a long silence. "You are talking to the dragon?" "Yes." "Tiho, are you having a mental breakdown? Should I call a doctor?" "No, I am serious. She says her name is Kira. She is very polite. Her scales are beautiful." Another long silence. "Stay there, I am coming to you. Do not do anything stupid." The phone clicked off. Tiho looked at Kira. "My sister is coming. She worries about me." "Families are important," Kira said. "That is something our species share." 10 minutes later, Yuna arrived. She was younger than Tiho by 5 years, with sharp eyes and a sharp tongue. She worked as a lawyer in Seoul but had been visiting their mother in Busan when the ship appeared. When she saw the dragon standing in front of her brother's clinic, she stopped walking and stared. "She is real," Yuna whispered. "Very real," Tiho said. "And she wants what?" Kira explained everything. She told them about the Draconari, about their power and their pride, about the nurseries and the eggs and the hatchlings. She told them about the hollow, the thing that was killing their children, and she told them why they needed a human. "Because you cannot see us," Yuna said slowly. "The monster cannot see humans." "Exactly. Your brother could enter our nurseries without drawing the hollow's attention. He could reach our hatchlings. He could help them." Yuna turned to Tiho. "You are not going." "Yuna." "No, absolutely not. You are my brother. You are not flying off to another planet to fight some kind of space demon. This is crazy." Tiho was quiet for a moment. He looked at Kira, at her massive form, at the worry in her strange reptilian eyes. He thought about the hatchlings she described. Baby dragons, alone and scared and dying. "I have to go," he said. "Tiho, please, think about this. Think about Mom. What will I tell her?" "Tell her I want to help some children who needed me." Yuna grabbed his arm. "This is not your responsibility. This is not your fight." "Maybe not, but I am the only one who can help. If I say no, those children will die. Could you live with that, could I?" Yuna's eyes filled with tears. She wanted to argue more, but she knew her brother. Once he decided to help something or someone, nothing could change his mind. It was the most wonderful and the most frustrating thing about him. "Promise me you will come back," she said. "I promise." They went to see their mother together. Kang Sunhai was 73 years old, a small woman with white hair and eyes that had seen many things. When Tiho told her he was leaving Earth to help dragons from another planet, she simply nodded. "My son is a good man," she said. "The spirits of our ancestors will protect him." Then she went to the kitchen and started packing food. Kimchi, dried fish, rice cakes, everything she could find. By the time she was done, Tiho had a bag heavy enough to feed an army. "Eat well," she said, pressing the bag into his hands. "And be kind to the dragons. Even the scary ones need kindness." Tiho hugged his mother tightly. He hugged his sister. Then he walked to the beam of light where Kira was waiting, and together they rose into the sky. Behind them, Busan slowly returned to normal. The news channels went wild with speculation. Governments demanded answers. The world tried to understand what had just happened. But in a small apartment, an old woman lit a candle and prayed for her son. And in a lawyer's office in Seoul, a young woman stared out the window at the stars and wondered if she would ever see her brother again. High above Earth, Tiho looked out the window of the dragon ship at his planet, growing smaller and smaller. He was afraid. He was uncertain. But somewhere out there, baby dragons needed his help. And Kang Tiho had never turned away from an animal in need. The journey through space took 7 days. Tiho spent most of that time learning. Kira taught him about the Draconari, their history, their culture, their biology. He asked hundreds of questions, filling notebook after notebook with sketches and notes. What did they eat? How did they sleep? How long did eggs take to hatch? What temperature did hatchlings need? Kira answered everything. At first she thought the human's curiosity was strange. No other species had ever cared about such details, but slowly she began to understand. Tiho was not just curious. He was preparing. He was doing what he did with every animal he treated. He was learning how to help. "You really love your work," Kira said one evening, watching him study his notes. Tiho looked up. "When I was a child, I found a snake in our garden. It was injured. Everyone told me to kill it, but I brought it inside and took care of it. My mother was very angry at first, but when the snake got better and I released it, she said something I never forgot. She said that every life has value, even the ones other people fear. Your mother is wise." "She is. I think you would like her." The Draconari homeworld was called Verath. It was twice the size of Earth, with mountains that reached above the clouds and oceans that burned with strange fire. The sky was purple, and 3 moons hung in it like glowing pearls. Tiho pressed his face against the ship's window like a child seeing snow for the first time. "It is beautiful," he said. "It is dying," Kira replied quietly. "If we cannot stop the hollow, all of this will be gone." They landed near the Crystal Palace. A crowd of dragons had gathered to see the human. Most of them looked at Tiho with doubt, even disgust. He was so small, so weak. How could this creature possibly save them? Matriarch Veshra was waiting at the entrance to the palace. She was the largest dragon Tiho had ever seen, her scales darker than the space between stars, her eyes burning with ancient fire. When she spoke, The ground itself seemed to vibrate. "So this is the human," she said, "Kang Tiho of Earth." Tiho bowed deeply, the way his mother had taught him to show respect to elders. "It is an honor to meet you, matriarch." Veshra tilted her massive head. "You bow to me. Why? I have heard that humans do not bend to anyone. Where I come from, we bow to show respect for age and wisdom. You have both." Something changed in Veshra's eyes. It was small, barely noticeable, but Kira saw it. The matriarch was impressed. "Come," Veshra said, "I will show you what we face." The nurseries were deep underground, connected to the palace by tunnels carved from living crystal. As they walked, Tiho noticed that the tunnels were empty. No dragons passed them. No sounds echoed through the halls. "Where is everyone?" he asked. "They stay away from the nurseries now," Kira explained. "The closer we get, the more the hollow can sense us. Our presence draws it to the eggs." They stopped at a massive door made of metal that glowed with strange symbols. Beyond it, Tiho could hear something. It was not exactly a sound. It was more like a feeling, a pressure in his mind, like standing at the edge of a very deep hole. "The hollow is inside," Veshra said. "It has been there for 3 months. We cannot enter without it attacking. We have tried everything. Warriors, scholars, machines, nothing works." She looked down at Tiho. "You are our last hope, human. Are you ready?" Tiho's heart was beating very fast. His hands were shaking slightly. But he thought about the hatchlings inside, alone and scared, and the fear became smaller than the need to help. "Yes," he said. The door opened. The nursery was enormous. It stretched out before Tiho like an underground world, filled with pools of warm water and nests of soft material. The ceiling glowed with some kind of natural light, gentle and warm. In a better time, this place must have been beautiful. Now it was a place of nightmares. The eggs were everywhere, thousands of them, ranging from the size of footballs to the size of cars. But many of them were dark. Their shells had turned gray and they gave off no warmth. They were empty. And in the corners, huddled in small groups, were the hatchlings. Tiho's heart broke when he saw them. They were so small, no bigger than large dogs with scales that should have been bright but were now dull and cracked. They were starving. They were terrified. Some of them shook uncontrollably. Others sat perfectly still, too weak to move. In the center of the nursery, something moved. It was not quite visible, more like a shadow that was darker than other shadows. It slid between the nests, searching, hungry. Tiho knew at once that this was the hollow. It did not notice him. Just as Kira had said, the hollow could not see him. To its psionic senses, Tiho simply did not exist. He was invisible. He was nothing. He was exactly what these children needed. Slowly, carefully, Tiho walked toward the nearest group of hatchlings. There were 5 of them pressed together in a corner behind a dead egg. Their eyes watched him approach, wide with fear. "Hello," Tiho said softly. His voice translator, a small device Kira had given him, turned his words into the Draconari language. "My name is Tiho. I am here to help you." The hatchlings did not move. They did not trust him. Why would they? Adults had tried to come before, and each time the hollow had attacked. Each time things had gotten worse. Tiho sat down on the floor. He moved slowly, making himself as small and unthreatening as possible. Then he opened the bag his mother had packed. The smell of food filled the air. Dried meat, fish, other things he had asked the ship to prepare based on what Kira told him about dragon diets. He took out a piece and held it toward the hatchlings. "Are you hungry?" he asked. "It is okay, you can eat." For a long moment, nothing happened. The hatchlings stared at him, at the food, at the hollow moving in the distance. Then the smallest one, a tiny creature with blue scales, took a step forward. It sniffed the meat. It looked at Tiho, and then, very slowly, it took the food from his hand. Tiho smiled. "Good, that is good. There is more, plenty more." One by one, the other hatchlings came forward. They ate from his hands, their small teeth gentle despite their sharpness. Tiho talked to them the whole time, keeping his voice soft and calm, saying nothing important, just letting them get used to his presence. Outside the nursery, Kira watched through a small camera drone. Tears were running down her scaled face, though she did not notice. Behind her, matriarch Veshra stood in complete silence, her ancient eyes fixed on the screen. "He is feeding them," Kira whispered. "By the ancestors, he is actually feeding them." "No Draconari has touched a hatchling in 3 months," Veshra said. Her voice was strange, thick with emotion that she had not felt in centuries. "This human walks in like he belongs there." On the screen, Tiho had moved to another group of hatchlings. He was singing something softly, an old Korean song his mother used to sing when he was sick as a child. The hatchlings gathered around him, drawn by his warmth, by his calm, by the absolute absence of fear in his heart. The hollow continued to move through the nursery, searching for prey. But it could not find the human. It could not sense the small, impossible creature that was slowly, carefully, saving every child it had tried to kill. Tiho worked for hours. He fed every hatchling he could find. He checked their scales, their eyes, their breathing. Some of them were very sick, and he made notes about what treatments they might need. Some of them were dying, and he held them gently, letting them know they were not alone. When he finally returned to the door, exhausted and covered in dust and small scratches from tiny claws, 37 hatchlings followed behind him. They would not let him go. Kira opened the door and stared. "They are following you." Tiho looked back at the small parade of dragons behind him. They looked up at him with eyes full of trust, the first trust they had felt in months. "They need someone," he said simply. "They need someone to take care of them." Veshra stepped forward. The hatchlings shrank back from her massive form, but they did not run. They stayed close to the human, pressing against his legs. "What do you need?" the matriarch asked. Tiho pulled out his notebook. "Medicine for the sick ones, more food specially prepared, a warm place for them to sleep, and time. This will not be fixed in one day. The hollow is still in there. We need a plan." Veshra looked at this small, tired, impossible human. He had done more in one afternoon than her entire species had managed in 3 months, and he was already planning what to do next. "You will have everything you need," she said, "and you will have our eternal gratitude." Tiho shook his head. "I do not want gratitude. I want to save the children, all of them." He looked back at the closed door, at the nursery where hundreds more hatchlings still waited, where the hollow still hunted. "This is just the beginning." For 2 weeks, Tiho returned to the nursery every day. He brought food. He brought medicine. He talked to the hatchlings, sang to them, held them when they were scared. Each day, more of them trusted him. Each day, more of them followed him out of the darkness. The Draconari watched in amazement. This human, this small and fragile creature, was doing what their greatest warriors could not. He walked past the hollow like it was not there. He reached into the heart of their nightmare and pulled out hope. Kira became his constant companion. She waited outside the nursery door every day, ready to help with whatever he needed. She carried supplies. She translated when the hatchlings tried to speak to him. She watched him work with a feeling she had never known before. "What is it called?" she asked him one evening, "when you care about someone you have just met?" Tiho smiled tiredly. "I think you call it friendship." "Friendship," Kira repeated. "Yes, I think that is what this is." But not everyone was happy with the human. Some dragons believed that relying on such a weak creature was shameful. They whispered that Veshra had lost her mind, that the Draconari were becoming soft. One elder, a massive red dragon named Vorn, spoke openly against Tiho at a council meeting. "This human is not saving us," Vorn growled. "He is humiliating us. Every day he goes into that nursery, every hatchling that follows him out proves that we are too weak to protect our own children. What will other species say? What will our enemies think?" They will think we are wise, Veshra replied calmly. They will think we are strong enough to accept help when we need it. He is a pet, a tool, nothing more. He is a guest and a hero. You will treat him with respect. Vorn fell silent, but his eyes were full of anger. Tiho, standing at the back of the chamber, pretended he had not heard, but he remembered. He knew not everyone wanted him here. On the 15th day, something changed. Tiho was deep in the nursery, feeding a group of very young hatchlings when the air grew cold. The gentle light in the ceiling flickered. The hatchlings around him suddenly became still, their eyes wide with terror. The hollow was close, closer than it had ever been. Tiho looked up. The shadow was there just a few meters away, sliding between the nests. It was not just moving randomly anymore. It was searching, hunting, looking for something specific. It was looking for him. He understood then. The hollow could not sense him directly. His psionic signature was 0, but he had been in the nursery for 2 weeks. He had touched hundreds of hatchlings, left traces of himself everywhere. The hollow had felt something changing. It had felt its prey being taken, and it had begun to hunt for the cause. Tiho stayed very still. The hatchlings around him did not move. No one breathed. The hollow came closer. It was not exactly looking at him. It could not see him, but it could feel that something was wrong. Something was different. There was a gap in its world, a hole where prey should be. It was starting to notice the absence. It knows, Tiho whispered to himself. It knows something is here. He had to move. He had to get the hatchlings out. But if he moved, the hollow might follow the disturbance. It might figure out where he was. It might attack. For the first time since entering the nursery, Tiho felt true fear. Not fear for himself. Fear for the tiny creatures pressing against him, trusting him to keep them safe. He made a decision. Go, he whispered to the hatchlings. Go to the door slowly, do not run. They looked at him with confused eyes. Go, he said again, gently pushing them. I will catch up. The hatchlings began to move, creeping toward the entrance one by one. Tiho watched them go, counting each small form. 12, 15, 18. They were almost safe. And then one of them tripped. It was the smallest hatchling, the blue one who had been the first to trust him. It stumbled over a rock and let out a tiny cry of fear. Just a small sound. But in the silence of the nursery, it was like a thunderclap. The hollow turned. It could not see the hatchling, but it could feel the burst of psionic energy from its fear. It could taste the terror, and it wanted more. The shadow surged forward. Tiho did not think. He moved on instinct, throwing himself between the hollow and the hatchling. He scooped the small dragon into his arms and held it close, feeling its small heart beating against his chest. It is okay, he said softly. I have you, do not be afraid. The hollow stopped. It was directly in front of Tiho now, close enough to touch. He could feel its cold, its hunger, its ancient emptiness. It filled his vision like a void, like a hole in the universe shaped like hunger. But it could not find him. He was right there holding its prey, but to the hollow's senses there was nothing, just empty space, just silence. Tiho looked into the darkness. He saw something moving in it, something that might have been eyes or might have been nothing at all. You are not welcome here, he said. His voice was calm. His heart was steady. He felt fear, but he did not let it control him. He remembered his grandmother's words from long ago, evil feeds on fear. Starve it. The hollow shuddered. It had existed for longer than stars. It had consumed worlds. It had never met anything it could not sense, could not understand, could not feed upon. Until now. These children are not yours, Tiho continued. They belong to their families, they belong to themselves, and you will not have them. He pulled out his phone. His hands were shaking slightly, but his voice was steady. He opened a music file, something his mother had sent him, and pressed play. The sound of Pansari filled the nursery. It was an old Korean singing style, deep and powerful, full of sorrow and strength. His mother used to sing these songs when he was a child, when he was sick or scared or sad. The words spoke of mountains and rivers, of ancestors watching over their children, of love that lasted beyond death. The hollow writhed. It could not understand the sound. It could not feel the emotions behind it. It was just noise to the creature, noise from a void it could not comprehend. And the hatchlings heard it. All through the nursery, small dragons lifted their heads. They did not understand the words either, but they felt something. They felt warmth. They felt safety. They felt hope. They began to move toward the sound. One by one, two by two, dozens of hatchlings crept out of hiding. They gathered around Tiho, pressing close, drawing strength from his presence. The blue hatchling in his arms stopped shaking. It looked up at him with bright, trusting eyes. "You are going to be okay," Tiho told it. "All of you, I promise." Outside the nursery, Kira was screaming into her communicator. "The hollow is active. It is attacking. Send everyone. Send the matriarch." The massive doors exploded open. Veshra herself burst through, followed by dozens of dragon warriors. They had been waiting, hopping, praying for a chance to fight back. And now, for the first time, they could see their enemy clearly. The hollow was weakened, confused, distracted by the impossible human it could not see, the music it could not understand, the prey it could not reach. For just a moment, its guard was down. Veshra breathed fire. It was not normal fire. It was dragon fire, older than planets, hot enough to melt dimensions. It struck the hollow like the anger of a god, burning through shadow, through hunger, through ancient darkness. The other dragons joined her. Fire from 20 mouths filled the nursery, focused on the writhing shadow at its center. The hollow screamed, a sound that existed only in the mind, a sound of endless hunger finally feeling pain. Tiho shielded the hatchlings with his body, but the fire did not touch them. The dragons were careful, precise, their flames finding only the enemy. It took 5 minutes, the longest 5 minutes of Tiho's life. But when it was over, when the last flame died and the smoke cleared, the hollow was gone. Not just defeated, gone, destroyed, ended. The nursery was silent. Then slowly, a sound began to build. The hatchlings were making a noise, something between a chirp and a song. It took Tiho a moment to realize what it meant. They were celebrating. Veshra walked through the crowd of small dragons. They parted for her, not out of fear but out of respect. She stopped in front of Tiho, who was still holding the blue hatchling, and lowered her massive head. "You stood before the hollow," she said. "You had no fire, no claws, no power, but you stood." Tiho's legs were shaking. The fear he had pushed away was coming back now, making him weak. But he stayed on his feet. "Someone had to," he said. "Someone had to," Veshra repeated. "Yes, and that someone was you, a small creature from a small world with nothing but a stubborn heart and a mother's song." She bowed. The matriarch of the Draconari, ruler of 10,000 years, bowed to a human veterinarian from Busan. "Thank you, Kang Tiho. Thank you for saving our children." Around them, the hatchlings pressed close, filling the space with warmth and trust, and something that felt very much like love. The hollow was gone. The nightmare was over. And in the heart of the dragon nursery, surrounded by creatures that had once ruled the stars, Tiho finally let himself cry. The celebration lasted for 3 days. Dragons came from every corner of Varath to honor the human who had saved their children. They brought gifts of crystal and gold, of ancient books and beautiful artworks. They sang songs of victory that shook the mountains. They danced in the purple sky, their wings painting patterns of joy. Tiho watched it all from a balcony in the Crystal Palace, feeling overwhelmed and slightly embarrassed. He had never been good at receiving praise. He was used to working quietly, alone, doing what needed to be done and moving on. This was too much. Kira found him hiding from a group of elders who wanted to give him a sacred medal. She landed on the balcony beside him. her scales shimmering in the light of the 3 moons. "You are supposed to be at the feast," she said. "I know, I just needed some air." "You have been standing in the air for 2 hours." Tiho laughed softly. "Is it that obvious?" "Yes." Kira sat down beside him, folding her wings. For a moment they just watched the sky together. "You are a strange creature, Kang Tiho. Most beings would love this attention. You run from it." "I did not do this for attention. I did it because children were in danger. Now they are safe. That is enough for me." Kira shook her head. "You truly do not understand how special you are. We have searched the galaxy for 10,000 years. We have met thousands of species. None of them would have done what you did. Maybe none of them were asked. Many were asked for help in wars, in disasters, in crises of all kinds. Some helped for payment. Some helped for power. Some refused entirely. But none of them ever helped simply because it was the right thing to do. None of them ever walked into darkness without asking what they would get in return." Tiho was quiet for a long time. He watched the dragons dancing in the sky, their fire making patterns like fireworks. He thought about his mother, his sister, his small clinic in Busan. He thought about the blue hatchling who had trusted him first, who now followed him everywhere like a shadow. "Where I come from," he said finally, "there is an old saying. If you save one life, you save the world. I do not know if that is true, but I know that every life matters. Every child deserves a chance to grow up. It does not matter if that child is human or dragon or something else entirely. Life is life." Kira looked at him with something like wonder. "Your species is very young. You have only been among the stars for a short time, but I think you may be wiser than any of us." The next day, Matriarch Veshra called Tiho to her throne room. The chamber was empty except for the two of them, the massive dragon and the small human, facing each other in the light of the crystal walls. "I have called you here to offer our thanks," Veshra said, "and to give you whatever reward you desire." "I do not want a reward," Tiho replied. "I know, that is why I am offering. Name anything, Kang Tiho, wealth beyond measure, a planet of your own, our ancient technology, even immortality if you wish it. We have ways of extending life far beyond its natural limits. You could live for thousands of years, honored as a hero among our people." Tiho thought about it. Immortality, the chance to live forever, to see the universe, to experience things no human had ever dreamed of. It was tempting, very tempting. But he thought about his mother, making kimchi in her small kitchen. He thought about his sister, arguing cases in her courtroom. He thought about the animals waiting at his clinic, the snakes and lizards and turtles who needed his care. "I want to go home," he said. Veshra blinked. Of all the answers she had expected, this was not one of them. "Home to your small planet, to your small life." "Yes, my mother is waiting, my sister is worried, and I have patients who need me." "You would give up eternity for this." Tiho smiled. "Eternity sounds lonely. I would rather have a short life full of the people I love than a long one without them." Veshra was silent for a long moment. Then she made a sound that Tiho had never heard from a dragon before. It took him a moment to realize she was laughing. "You are the strangest being I have ever met," she said, "and I have lived for 6,000 years. Very well, Kang Tiho, you will return to your Earth, but I hope you will accept one small gift." "What gift?" "Come back sometimes. Visit us. The hatchlings you saved will grow into mighty dragons. They will want to see you. They already call you a Boji. Father, would you leave your children forever?" Tiho felt his eyes sting with tears. "No, no, I would not." "Then it is agreed. A ship will always be ready to bring you here. You will always have a home among the Draconari." She extended one massive claw, and Tiho shook it. His entire hand barely wrapped around a single talon. "Thank you," he said, "for trusting me, for letting me help. Thank you for teaching us that strength is not always about fire and scales. Sometimes the greatest power is a kind heart. The journey home felt both too long and too short. Kira piloted the ship herself, insisting on escorting her friend back to Earth. The blue hatchling came too, refusing to be separated from Tiho. By the time they reached the solar system, it had grown noticeably, its scales now bright and healthy. "You will have to stay here," Tiho told the hatchling as Earth came into view. "Dragons cannot live on my planet." The hatchling made a sad sound and pressed against him. "I will come back," Tiho promised. "I will always come back." They landed in the same spot where Tiho had first met Kira, in front of his little clinic in Busan. The building looked smaller than he remembered. Everything looked smaller now. His mother and sister were waiting. Yuna ran to him first, throwing her arms around him, crying and laughing at the same time. "You idiot," she said. "You absolute idiot. You were gone for a month. A month. Do you know what that was like?" "I am sorry," Tiho said. "I had to help them." I know you did." She pulled back and looked at him. "You look tired and thinner. Did you eat anything?" "His mother's kimchi ran out after the first week," Kira said from behind them. "He complained about the ship's food constantly." Yuna looked at the dragon, then back at her brother. "You made friends with a dragon." "Several, actually." His mother approached more slowly. She looked older than when he had left, but her eyes were bright and warm. She reached up and touched his face, as if making sure he was real. "My son," she said simply, "you came home." "I promised." She smiled and pressed a container into his hands. It was warm. He did not have to open it to know what was inside. "Kimchi," he said. "You made me more kimchi." "Of course, you look too thin. You need to eat." Kira announced that she had to leave. The Draconari Council had appointed her as the official ambassador to Earth, which meant she would be returning often. She told them about the partnership that was forming between their peoples, about the exchange of knowledge and culture that would benefit both worlds. "We will not forget what humans did for us," she said. "The galaxy will know that when the mighty Draconari needed help, humanity answered, and they will know that not all strength is measured in fire." She looked at Tiho one last time. "Goodbye, my friend, for now." "Goodbye, Kira. Take care of the little ones." "Always." The ship rose into the sky and disappeared among the stars. Tiho watched it go, feeling a strange mixture of sadness and peace. Then he turned and walked into his clinic. There was work to do. A bearded dragon needed its bandages changed. A snake needed its medication. A turtle was waiting for a checkup. Normal things. Simple things. The small, quiet work of caring for creatures who could not care for themselves. But sometimes, late at night, he would go outside and look at the stars. And he would think about his other family, the one with scales and fire and wings. He would think about the hatchlings who called him father, who were growing stronger every day. He would think about the matriarch who had bowed to him, about Kira who had become his friend, about the hollow he had faced with nothing but a song. And he would smile. Because Kang Tiho was not a soldier. He was not a scientist. He was not a hero in any story that children would tell. He was just a veterinarian from Busan who loved animals and believed that every life was worth saving. But sometimes, that was exactly what the universe needed. A year later, when the ship came to take him back to Verath for his first visit, the blue hatchling he had rescued was waiting at the landing pad. It had grown to the size of a horse, its scales bright as sapphires, its eyes full of joy. It knocked him down and licked his face until he was covered in dragon drool. "I missed you too," Tiho laughed. "I missed you too." Above them the Draconari watched. Warriors and scholars, elders and hatchlings, all gathered to welcome the human back home. And in that moment, watching the small man embrace the young dragon, they understood something that changed them forever. They understood that strength was not just about power. It was about love. It was about sacrifice. It was about standing in the darkness and choosing to be kind. The humans had taught them this. A single human with nothing but a stubborn heart and a mother's song. And the dragons would never forget.